The folded napkin shouldn't have been sitting on Kang Jae-won's plate. Everything at Saryan, Chicago's most exclusive Korean fine dining establishment, was choreographed with surgical precision. Napkins belonged in laps or on tables, never folded into tight squares and placed directly on bone china like a threat wrapped in linen. Jae-won stared at it, his hand hovering over the whiskey glass he'd been about to lift. Around him, the restaurant hummed with the quiet soundtrack of wealth. Muted conversations in 3 languages, the delicate clink of crystal, the whisper of expensive fabric against leather booth seats. Soft golden light from hand-blown glass fixtures made everything glow like old money and older secrets. His security team, 3 men positioned strategically throughout the dining room, hadn't noticed. His dinner companion, Alderman Marcus Webb, continued talking about zoning permits and campaign contributions, oblivious to the small white square that had appeared like a ghost. Jae-won's eyes tracked the room with predatory precision. The waitress who'd just cleared his appetizer plate was retreating toward the kitchen, her posture perfect, her movements efficient. She didn't look back. Didn't pause. Didn't give any indication she'd just committed an act that could get her killed. She was black, medium brown skin that caught the amber light, natural hair pulled back in an elegant low bun, wearing the staff uniform of crisp white shirt and black slacks like armor. Maybe mid-20s. Pretty in an understated way that suggested she worked hard to be invisible in rooms like this. But she just made herself very, very visible to him. Jae-won picked up the napkin, unfolded it beneath the table where Marcus couldn't see. 7 words, written in hurried ballpoint pen. "He'll kill you if you go back." His blood went cold. The handwriting was feminine but urgent, letters pressed hard enough into the fabric that he could feel the impression. No signature. No context. Just a warning that suggested someone in this room knew exactly where he was going after dinner and knew he wouldn't survive it. His mind raced through the architecture of his evening. Dinner with Marcus, public, visible, documented. Then back to the Kang family compound on the north side for the monthly elder council meeting. His father had called it personally. Mandatory attendance. All family heads present. The meeting his half-brother Taemin had been pushing for. The meeting where succession would be discussed. The meeting Jae-won had been preparing for like a general preparing for war. His father was dying. Lung cancer stage 4. The doctors gave him 3 months, maybe 6. And when Kang Dae-young died, control of the Kang organization, 30 years of empire built on real estate, construction and less legal ventures, would pass to one of his sons. Jae-won was the youngest. Brilliant, ruthless, feared. But still the youngest. Taemin was the eldest. Traditional, connected to the old guard, hungry. The vote would be close. Dangerously close. And if this napkin was right, Taemin wasn't planning to wait for a vote. Jae-won refolded the napkin, slipped it into his jacket pocket and smiled at Marcus like nothing had changed. "Sorry, business. You were saying about the permits?" But his mind was elsewhere, calculating probabilities and threats. His eyes found the waitress again. She was at the service station now, back to him, loading a tray with deliberate care. Who was she? How did she know? And why would a stranger risk everything to warn him? He needed answers. "Excuse me." Jae-won stood abruptly, interrupting Marcus mid-sentence. "I need to make a call." He moved through the restaurant with purpose, his security team's eyes tracking him but not following. They knew better than to crowd him in public. He headed toward the restrooms, then veered left into the narrow hallway that led to the kitchen. Staff-only territory. Off-limits to guests. He pushed through the door anyway. The kitchen was controlled chaos. Line cooks shouted orders in Korean and Spanish, flames leapt from gas burners, the air thick with the scent of garlic, sesame oil, and expensive protein being transformed into art. Jae-won's presence cut through the noise like a blade. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. "A su chef nearly dropped Napkin." Jae-won's voice carried absolute authority. "The waitress who just served table 7. With me." "No." Maya Chen's hands froze on the dessert tray she'd been loading. Her pulse hammered so hard she could feel it in her throat. She'd known this moment was coming, had felt it approaching like a storm on the horizon. Fully she turned. He was even more intimidating up close. Tall, maybe 6'1", with a lean, athletic build that his Tom Ford suit couldn't quite civilize. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that missed nothing, black hair styled with precision. He looked like violence in expensive tailoring. Sir, I'm working. Not anymore. He gestured toward the back exit. Outside. 1 minute. I just need to understand what you thought you were doing. It wasn't a request. Maya glanced at her manager, who was watching with barely concealed panic. Getting involved with a guest, especially a guest like Kang Jae-won, was grounds for immediate termination. But refusing him seemed even more dangerous. She untied her apron, set it on the counter, and followed him out into the alley behind the restaurant. The December air hit like a slap. Maya wrapped her arms around herself, the thin white shirt offering zero protection against Chicago winter. Her breath fogged in the narrow space between Saryan's back door and the graffiti-tagged brick wall across the alley. Kang Jae-won stood 3 feet away, perfectly still, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Explain. 1 word. Cold, controlled, dangerous. Maya's mind raced. How much could she tell him? How much did he already know? How much would get her killed? Your driver, she said carefully, forcing her voice steady. About 20 minutes ago he was in the back hallway near the wine storage. Speaking Korean on his phone. I understood enough to know you're in danger. His expression didn't change. You speak Korean? Enough to get by. I grew up in Koreatown. My best friend's family owns a restaurant on Kimball. She was talking too fast, nervous energy spilling out. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I just happened to be there and he was talking loudly and I heard your name and then I heard... What exactly did you hear? Maya swallowed hard. He said they'd handle it after the meeting tonight. Make it look like an accident. Something about making sure you didn't make it back from the compound. Kang Jae-won's jaw tightened, the first real reaction she'd seen from him. My driver. Kim Sang-ho. Worked for my family for 15 years. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be specific. He took a step closer and Maya's back hit the brick wall. Not threatening exactly, but absolutely trapping her. What else did he say? Who was he talking to? What were the exact words? She closed her eyes, pulling up the memory. He said Jae-won Sai will arrive at 9:30. The elders will keep him in the meeting room. We'll position during the security shift change at 10:15. Then he switched to talking about a car. Something about brakes and the ravine on Sheridan Road. The color drained from Kang Jae-won's face. That's the route back from my father's compound, he said quietly. There's a curve just past the country club. Steep drop, no guardrail. Someone cut my brakes. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Maya watched emotions flicker across his face. Shock, fury, calculation. This was a man realizing his own family was trying to kill him. This was betrayal measured in blood. Why? His eyes locked onto hers and the intensity of his gaze stole her breath. Why would you warn me? You don't know me. This isn't your world. You could have stayed silent, stayed safe. Maya started then stopped. Why had she? It had been instinct, impulse, the same stupid instinct that made her help injured animals and give her last dollar to homeless veterans. I couldn't just let someone die. Not when I could prevent it. That kind of mercy gets people killed in my world. Then maybe your world is broken. The words came out sharper than she'd intended. For a moment they just stared at each other, this dangerous man and the waitress who'd dared to save him. Then Kang Jae-won's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression went carefully blank. My father. Reminding me not to be late. He looked back at Maya and something shifted in his eyes. What's your name? Maya. Maya-chan. Maya-chan. He said it like he was memorizing it, filing it away for future use. Thank you for the warning. But you need to forget this conversation happened. Go back inside, finish your shift, go home. Don't talk to anyone about what you heard. Don't come back to work for at least a week. Tell your manager you're sick. What are you going to do? His smile was cold and sharp as a blade. I'm going to that meeting. But first I'm going to make sure my driver knows exactly what happens to traitors. Maya's stomach turned. You're going to kill him. No. Kang Jae-won pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly. I'm going to let my head of security handle it. Professionally. Quietly. And then I'm going to walk into that compound and figure out which of my relatives ordered my death. He started walking toward the mouth of the alley, then paused, looking back. Maya-chan, he said again. I don't forget debts. You saved my life tonight. That creates an obligation I take very seriously. I don't want anything from you. Too bad. His gaze held hers, intense and unreadable. Because now you're under my protection. Whether you want it or not. Then he was gone, disappearing into the night like a ghost, leaving Maya alone in the alley with the terrifying realization that she just stepped into a world she didn't understand and couldn't escape. Maya stood in that alley for a full minute after Kang Jae-won disappeared, her breath creating small clouds in the freezing air, her mind racing through what had just happened. She'd warned him. He'd believed her. And now she was under his protection, whatever the hell that meant. Her hands were still shaking when she pushed back through the kitchen door. The noise and heat enveloped her like a living thing. Her manager, Thomas, was waiting by the service station, his expression hovering somewhere between concerned and furious. "What was that about?" he demanded in a low voice, pulling her aside. "Mr. Kang doesn't speak to staff. He barely acknowledges we exist. What did you do?" "Nothing," Maya lied, her heart still hammering. "He just wanted to ask about the wine pairing. Wanted a recommendation." Thomas's eyes narrowed. He could smell bullshit a mile away. "For the rest of the night you stay in the kitchen. No front of house. I don't want any more irregularities." "Understood." "Understood." But staying in the kitchen didn't stop her mind from spinning. She moved through the mechanical tasks of plating desserts, loading the dishwasher, wiping down stations, all while replaying every word of that alley conversation. The way Kang Jae-won had looked at her. The controlled fury in his voice when he'd confirmed his driver's betrayal. The absolute certainty with which he'd declared her under his protection. She didn't want protection from a man like that. Didn't want to be tangled up in whatever deadly family politics were playing out in the shadows of Chicago's Korean elite. But she'd opened that door. She'd written that note. And now she couldn't close it. Her shift ended at 11. Maya changed in the cramped staff bathroom, trading her uniform for jeans, a thick sweater, and the winter coat she'd bought secondhand 3 years ago. The fabric was worn thin at the elbows, the zipper temperamental. It was nothing like the cashmere and wool coats she'd seen on the guests tonight, but it was hers and it kept her warm enough. The bus ride home took 45 minutes. Maya pressed her forehead against the cold window, watching Chicago slide past in a blur of lights and shadows. She lived in a studio apartment in Pilsen, one room with a kitchenette and a bathroom the size of a closet. Rent was $800 a month, utilities another $100. Between Saryan and her day job as a paralegal assistant at a small immigration law firm, she made it work. Barely. Her father's medical bills ate most of what was left. Diabetes and kidney disease had stolen his ability to work 2 years ago. Now he lived in a subsidized care facility on the south side, hooked up to dialysis 3 times a week, his body slowly failing while Maya worked herself to exhaustion trying to keep him comfortable. The doctor said a kidney transplant might buy him another decade. But the waiting list was years long and the cost astronomical. So she worked. And saved. And tried not to think about the inevitable. Maya unlocked her apartment door, stepped inside and froze. Someone was sitting in her armchair. The only armchair she owned, threadbare and rescued from a curb 5 years ago. Kang Jae-won looked completely out of place in her tiny studio, his expensive suit a stark contrast to her second-hand furniture and peeling linoleum. He'd somehow made himself comfortable, one ankle crossed over his knee, hands folded in his lap, looking for all the world like he owned the space. 2 men stood behind him. Large, silent, clearly security. "How did you get in here?" Maya's voice came out steadier than she felt. She left the door open, one hand on the knob, calculating whether she could run if she needed to. "Your landlord was very cooperative." Jae-won's tone was conversational, almost pleasant. "We had a discussion about building safety, the importance of proper locks, fire code violations. He was eager to help. You can't just break into my apartment." "I didn't break anything. I walked through an open door." He gestured to the chair across from him, a cheap folding chair she used when her father visited. "Seat. We need to talk. I already told you everything I know." "Seat. Maya. Please." The please softened it, turned command into request. "Barely." She closed the door, locked it, a futile gesture given that he'd already bypassed it once, and sat. Up close, in the harsh fluorescent light of her apartment, she could see the exhaustion etched into his face. "The meeting," she said. "What happened?" "Exactly what you warned me about." Jae-won's expression was carved from stone. "My driver confessed before my head of security could finish the first question. Taemin paid him $50,000 to tamper with my brakes. The plan was elegant. I'd die on Sheridan Road, tragic accident, too much speed on a dangerous curve. My brother would express appropriate grief, and the elders would vote him in as the new family head within a week. Maya's stomach turned. But you didn't go back. You. I called my father. Told him I'd received a credible threat and wouldn't be attending. He was furious until I had my security team check my car. Jae-won's smile was cold and terrible. They found the brake line cut just like you said. I sent my father the photos. He's calling an emergency council meeting tomorrow. Taemin's presence is mandatory. That sounds dangerous. It will be. His eyes met hers, dark and unreadable. Which is why you're not staying here tonight. Excuse me? This apartment is compromised. Taemin knows I survived. He'll know someone warned me. It won't take him long to figure out who. Your name is on the restaurant schedule. Your address is public record. You're a loose end, Maya. And my brother doesn't leave loose ends. The fear that had been simmering in Maya's gut all evening finally broke through. I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted to help. I know. Jae-won stood and the movement was fluid, controlled, predatory. And that's why I'm here. To make sure your mercy doesn't get you killed. One of the security men stepped forward, holding a black duffel bag. Pack essentials, Jae-won said. Clothes for 3 days, toiletries, anything you can't live without. You're coming with me. To where? Somewhere safe. Somewhere my brother's people can't reach you. His tone left no room for argument. You'll be comfortable, protected, and most importantly, alive. And if I refuse? Then you'll be dead by morning and I'll have another name on my conscience. He said it flatly without melodrama. Simple cause and effect. Your choice. Maya looked around her tiny apartment. The second-hand furniture, the wall calendar marked with her father's dialysis appointments, the stack of paralegal textbooks on her makeshift desk. This was her life. Small, hard one hers. Walking out meant abandoning it for a world she didn't understand. Staying meant dying in it. Not much of a choice. She stood, grabbed the duffel bag and started packing. 15 minutes later, Maya sat in the back of a black SUV, her meager possessions in the duffel at her feet, watching her apartment building disappear in the rearview mirror. Jae-won sat beside her, silent, staring out at the city sliding past. Where are we going? He asked finally. My penthouse. Gold Coast. It's secure, monitored, impossible to breach without triggering a dozen alarms. You'll have your own room, your own space. My staff will take care of anything you need. I have a job. 2 jobs. I can't just disappear. You'll call in sick tomorrow. Both places. Say you have the flu, food poisoning, whatever sounds plausible. Jae-won's tone was matter-of-fact. I'll have my people handle the details. Your rent will be paid, your bills current. Your father's care facility will receive a substantial anonymous donation to ensure he gets the best treatment available. You can't just take over my life. I'm not taking it over. I'm protecting it. There's a difference. Maya wanted to argue, wanted to rage against the casual way he was dismantling her autonomy. But exhaustion was settling into her bones, and the warm interior of the SUV was making her eyelids heavy. She leaned her head against the window, watching Chicago's late-night landscape blur past. Skyscrapers reaching toward the sky, their windows glowing like earthbound stars. Streets empty except for the occasional taxi or delivery truck. A city that never truly slept, just shifted into a different rhythm. When did you know? Jae-won's question cut through the silence. That my driver was planning something. Maya closed her eyes, pulling up the memory. I was restocking wine in the back hallway. He was on his phone speaking Korean, thought he was alone. I heard your name and froze. Everything in me said to walk away, mind my own business. But then he said something about an accident, about making sure you didn't survive the night, and I couldn't. Couldn't what? Couldn't walk away. Not when I could prevent it. You don't even know me. I know you didn't deserve to die because your family's playing power games. Maya opened her eyes, turned to look at him. I know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer because of things beyond your control. My father's dying by inches because we can't afford a kidney transplant, because the system is rigged against people like us. If I could have prevented that, saved him from this, I would have done anything. So when I had the chance to save someone else, even a stranger, I took it. Jae-won stared at her, something shifting behind his eyes. Your father needs a kidney transplant? Stage 4 kidney disease. He's been on the waiting list for 18 months. They say it could be another 2 years before a match comes through. If he lives that long. The bitterness in her voice surprised her. She usually kept that locked away, hidden beneath layers of determination and forced optimism. But something about this night, this man, this impossible situation had stripped away her defenses. What blood type? Maya blinked at the non sequitur. What? Your father. What's his blood type? Oh, positive. Why? Jae-won pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly. I know people. Transplant surgeons, organ procurement coordinators, people who can move him up the list. Make sure he gets the care he needs. You can't just buy someone a kidney. Actually, I can. Not legally, obviously, but there are ways. Gray areas. Connections. His eyes met hers, and the intensity in them made her breath catch. You saved my life, Maya-chan. The least I can do is try to save your father's. Tears burned behind her eyes. She blinked them back furiously, refusing to cry in front of this man. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. Debt is everything in my world. You created one tonight. I intend to pay it. The SUV pulled into an underground garage, security gates closing behind them with finality. They rode an elevator in silence, the numbers climbing higher and higher, until they reached the penthouse. The doors opened directly into the space. Maya stepped out and her breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, Lake Michigan a dark expanse beyond. The decor was minimalist, expensive, all clean lines and muted colors. Charcoal gray furniture, white walls, touches of black and chrome. Art that probably cost more than her annual salary. Looked like something from a magazine. Beautiful and completely impersonal. Your room is this way. Jae-won led her down a hallway, past what looked like a home office and a gym, to a guest suite that was larger than her entire apartment. King-size bed with crisp white linens, sitting area with a leather chair and floor lamp, and soot bathroom with a rainfall shower and soaking tub. Everything pristine, untouched, waiting. The closet has basics, Jae-won said, gesturing to the walk-in. Different sizes. My assistant keeps it stocked for guests. Take whatever fits. If you need anything else, there's a phone on the nightstand. Press 1, it reaches my security team. Press 2, it reaches me directly. Maya set her duffel down, feeling completely out of place. This is too much. This is necessary. He paused in the doorway, his expression softening slightly. Get some sleep, Maya. Tomorrow we figure out how to keep you alive long enough to go home. Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Maya stood in the center of that beautiful, sterile room and finally let herself feel the full weight of what had happened. She'd saved a stranger's life. And in doing so had lost control of her own. She walked to the windows, pressed her forehead against the cool glass, and stared out at the city spread below. Somewhere out there, Kang Jae-won was realizing his plan had failed. Somewhere out there, her father was sleeping in his care facility, unaware his daughter had just stepped into a war. Somewhere out there, her old life was continuing without her, and she had no idea if she'd ever get it back. But for tonight she was safe. Protected by a man who measured debts in blood and paid them the same way. She should have been terrified. Should have been planning her escape. Instead she felt something else entirely. Something dangerous that felt almost like trust. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the disorienting realization that she wasn't in her apartment. The bed beneath her was too soft, the sheets too expensive, the ceiling too high. Memory crashed back in fragments. The napkin. The alley. Kang Jae-won sitting in her threadbare armchair like a king on a borrowed throne. For a moment she just lay there, staring at the pristine white ceiling, trying to reconcile the waitress she'd been yesterday with whatever she was becoming today. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. 7:30 in the morning. She had 3 missed calls from Thomas at Saryan, 2 text messages from her co-worker at the law firm, and 1 voicemail from the care facility where her father lived. Panic spiked through her. She grabbed the phone, listened to the message with her heart in her throat. Miss Chin, this is Patricia from Lakeside Care. Just calling to let you know your father had a wonderful night. His vitals are excellent and he's asking about you. Also, we received notification of a substantial donation made in your family's name. The funds will cover his care for the next 6 months and allow us to move him to one of our private suites with enhanced monitoring. Please call when you have a moment to discuss the details. Maya's hands trembled as she lowered the phone. 6 months. Jae-won had done this overnight. While she slept, he'd rearranged her father's entire situation with the casual efficiency of someone who moved mountains before breakfast. It should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like the first full breath she'd taken in 2 years. She found clothes in the closet exactly as Jae-won had promised. Designer labels in multiple sizes, tags still attached. She selected jeans that actually fit, a soft gray sweater that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and felt like an imposter wearing someone else's skin. The bathroom was stocked like a luxury hotel. High-end toiletries, plush towels, a shower with enough water pressure to strip paint. Maya stood under the spray for longer than necessary, letting the heat work out the tension in her shoulders, trying to wash away the surreal feeling that her life had become someone else's story. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel that felt like clouds, she found a note slipped under her bedroom door. "Breakfast in the kitchen when you're ready. Take your time. No signature." Didn't need one. Maya dressed, ran her fingers through her damp curls, decided makeup was pointless and ventured out into the penthouse. Daylight transformed the space. What had seemed cold and impersonal last night now revealed itself as deliberately curated. Minimalist, yes, but with touches of warmth. Books in Korean and English lined built-in shelves. Black and white photographs of Seoul's markets hung in the hallway. A small jade plant sat on the windowsill, thriving despite the stark surroundings. The kitchen was all stainless steel and marble, dominated by an island large enough to serve as a landing strip. Jae-won stood at the stove wearing black pants and a white t-shirt, his hair slightly damp, cooking something that smelled like heaven. He looked younger without the suit. More human. The expensive armor stripped away to reveal someone who might have been ordinary if you didn't look too closely at the controlled precision of his movements, the alertness in his posture even while performing something as mundane as cooking. "You cook?" Maya's voice came out more surprised than she'd intended. "Don't sound so shocked." He glanced over his shoulder and something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "I lived alone for 5 years before I could afford staff. Learned out of necessity." Sit. Maya slid onto one of the bar stools at the island. Up close she could see what he was making. Kimchi fried rice, eggs perfectly fried with crispy edges, banchan arranged in small dishes like jewels. The kind of breakfast her best friend's mother used to make on special occasions. It looked homemade, comforting, completely at odds with the man preparing it. Jae-won asked, already pouring before she could answer. "Black one sugar." "How did you know?" "I notice things." He set the mug in front of her. "It's how I stay alive." The coffee was perfect. Rich, smooth, exactly the way she liked it. Maya wrapped her hands around the warmth and watched him plate the food with the same precision he probably applied to everything. Quick, efficient, no wasted movement. He set a plate in front of her, took the stool beside her with his own, and for a moment they just ate in silence. The food was incredible. Not restaurant quality but better. Home-cooked with care and skill that suggested he'd done this 1,000 times. Maya found herself relaxing despite everything, the simple ritual of shared breakfast creating an illusion of normalcy in an utterly abnormal situation. "I called your jobs," Jae-won said, breaking the silence. "Told Saryan you had a family emergency and wouldn't be back for at least a week. Your manager wasn't happy but he'll hold your position. The law firm was easier. Your supervisor, Sandra, was very understanding when I explained you needed time to handle a personal crisis." "You talked to Sandra yourself?" "I had my assistant call. Professional woman to professional woman. More believable that way." He took a sip of his own coffee. "Your paychecks will continue. I've arranged it. You can't just arrange my entire life. Watch me." There was no arrogance in it, just statement of fact. "You're in danger because of me, Maya. Because you saved me. That makes your safety my responsibility. I don't take responsibilities lightly." "What about the emergency council meeting? Your brother?" His expression hardened, all traces of domesticity vanishing. "It's at noon. My father is requiring all family heads to attend. Taemin can't refuse without confirming his guilt. It's going to get ugly. Will you be safe?" Jae-won looked at her and something shifted in his eyes. Surprised maybe that she'd ask. "I'll have my security team. And I'll have the evidence. Kim Sang-ho's confession, the tampered brake line, the money trail from Taemin's accounts. My father may be dying but he's not weak. He won't tolerate a son who tries to kill another son. Even if that son is his heir. Especially then. Succession means nothing if it comes through betrayal of family. That's the one unforgivable sin in our world." Jae-won's voice was flat, emotionless. "Taemin knows this. He's desperate. which makes him more dangerous than ever. What happens to him? If your father believes the evidence? Exile at best. Death at worst. The casual way he said it made Maya's stomach turn. These were the rules of his world. Swift, brutal, absolute. Do you want him dead? Jae-won was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee like it held answers. He's my brother. Half-brother but still. We grew up together, trained together, fought together before the inheritance divided us. Part of me remembers that. Remembers when we were just two boys trying to survive our father's expectations. But he tried to kill me. And in doing so he endangered you. The woman who saved my life. So no, I don't want him dead. But I won't hesitate if it comes to that. The weight of his words settled between them. Maya pushed her empty plate away, suddenly not hungry despite how good the food had been. What do you need from me today? Just stay here. Stay safe. Don't answer the door, don't leave the building, don't contact anyone except your father if you need to. My security team monitors the building. You're protected. And you? I survived the meeting. Come back. Figure out our next move. He stood, carried their plates to the sink, rinsed them with the same precise efficiency. I should be back by 3 at the latest. Something goes wrong? Then my head of security, Park Min-soo, will contact you. He'll get you somewhere even safer and keep you protected until the situation resolves. Jae-won turned to face her, leaning against the counter. But nothing's going to go wrong. I've been preparing for this confrontation my entire life. Maya wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust in his confidence, his preparation, his absolute certainty. But she'd seen enough of his world in the past 12 hours to know that certainty was an illusion. People died in these family wars. Good people, bad people, innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. And Kang Jae-won, for all his power and preparation, was still just a man walking into a room full of people who'd already tried to kill him once. Be careful, she said quietly. He smiled and it transformed his face. Not the cold, dangerous smile she'd seen before, but something warmer, more genuine. I will. For what it's worth, Maya-chan, I'm glad you wrote that note. Even if it's complicated your life beyond recognition? Especially then. He grabbed his suit jacket from where it hung over a chair, shrugged into it, transformed back into the controlled, dangerous man she'd first seen at Saryan. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me or Min-soo. And if you get scared, press 2 on the phone. I'll answer. Even in the middle of the meeting? Even then. Then he was gone, the penthouse door closing behind him with a soft click. Maya locked it, checked it twice, then stood in the pristine kitchen surrounded by the remnants of breakfast and tried to figure out what to do with herself. She'd never been good at sitting still. Waiting made her anxious, gave her too much time to think, to spiral into worst-case scenarios. So she did what she always did when anxiety threatened to overwhelm her. She cleaned. Started with the kitchen, washing dishes that Jae-won had already rinsed, wiping down counters that were already spotless, organizing cabinets that didn't need organizing. Moved to the living room, straightening pillows, dusting shelves, anything to keep her hands busy and her mind occupied. She was reorganizing the books on the built-in shelves, sorting them by color because alphabetical felt too invasive when she found the photograph. Small, tucked between 2 volumes of Korean poetry. A snapshot that had been hidden rather than displayed. A woman and a young boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old. The woman was beautiful, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, wearing a traditional hanbok. The boy looked like a younger version of Jae-won. Same sharp features, same serious expression, but with something softer around the edges. Something that hadn't been carved away by years of violence and survival. His mother, Maya realized. Had to be. The resemblance was too strong, the way the boy leaned into her too familiar. She looked at the photograph for a long time, trying to reconcile the child in the picture with the man who'd cooked her breakfast. Trying to understand the journey from that moment of captured warmth to the cold fortress he'd built around himself. She put the photograph back exactly where she'd found it, hidden between the poetry volumes, and moved on. By noon, the penthouse was immaculate and Maya was climbing the walls with nervous energy. She tried to watch television but couldn't focus. Tried to read one of the books from the shelf but the words wouldn't stick. Tried to nap, but sleep was impossible with her mind racing through everything that could be going wrong at that council meeting. Finally, she called the care facility. Her father answered on the 3rd ring, his voice stronger than it had been in months. Maya, the private suite is incredible. I have a window overlooking the garden. The nurses say I can go outside when the weather's better. Who did this? How did this happen? Someone wanted to help, Maya said carefully. An anonymous donor. One of those charity foundation things. Don't question miracles, Dad. Just accept them. Her father laughed, the sound rusty but genuine. You sound different. Everything okay? Everything's fine. Just taking a few days off work. Personal time. Needed a break. Liar. But he said it with affection. You never take breaks. You work yourself to death trying to take care of your old man. I'm fine, seriously. Just wanted to hear your voice. I love you, Maya. Love you too, Dad. She hung up and felt tears burning behind her eyes. This was real. Jae-won had actually done it. Had taken one of her biggest burdens and lifted it like it weighed nothing. Had given her father comfort and dignity in what might be his final months. The debt she owed him was growing with every passing hour. 1 o'clock came and went. Then Maya paced the length of the penthouse, watching the city spread out below, wondering what was happening in that council meeting. Whether Jae-won was safe. Whether his father believed the evidence. Whether Taemin had more moves planned, more contingencies, more ways to cheat death. At 2:45 her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, remembered Jae-won's warning about not contacting anyone, but something made her pick up. Oh. A man's voice, speaking English with a Korean accent. This is Park Min-soo, Mr. Kang's head of security. We met briefly last night. Is he okay? Is Jae-won okay? He's alive. But the situation has become complicated. The council meeting turned into an ambush. Taemin brought his own security team, armed, in direct violation of the compound rules. There's been an exchange of fire. Mr. Kang is secure but he can't return to the penthouse. It's been compromised. Maya's heart stopped. Compromised how? Taemin's people know about you. They have your name, your photo from the restaurant security footage. They're looking for you as we speak. You need to leave. No. Leave and go where? I'm sending a team to extract you. 5 minutes. Pack only essentials. We're taking you to a secondary location until Mr. Kang can secure the situation. Min-soo's voice was calm, professional, the tone of a man who'd done this 100 times. Do not leave until my team arrives. Do not open the door for anyone else. Understood? Understood. Maya was already moving, grabbing her duffel, shoving in the clothes she'd borrowed, her phone charger, the few personal items she'd brought. Her hands shook as she zipped the bag, adrenaline flooding her system. This was real. This was happening. She wasn't safe anymore. The penthouse intercom buzzed. Maya froze. The video screen by the door showed 3 men in black tactical gear, professional, armed, standing in the hallway outside. One of them looked up at the camera, spoke into a radio. Miss Chin, we're Min-soo's team. We need to move now. Maya grabbed her bag, took one last look at the pristine penthouse that had been her sanctuary for less than 24 hours and opened the door. The men moved with military precision, 2 flanking her, 1 leading, guiding her toward the service elevator at the end of the hall. No one spoke. They didn't need to. The urgency was written in their posture, their constant surveillance of the hallway, the way hands rested on concealed weapons. The elevator descended in tense silence. Maya's pulse hammered in her throat. This morning she'd been eating kimchi fried rice and worrying about council meetings. Now she was being extracted like a CIA asset, protected by men with guns because she'd made the mistake of showing mercy to a stranger. The elevator opened into the parking garage. The team guided her toward a black SUV, engine already running. They were 10 feet from the vehicle when the first shot rang out. The sound was deafening in the concrete space, echoing off walls and low ceilings. One of the security team went down, blood blooming across his shoulder. The other 2 moved instantly, bodies shielding Maya, returning fire toward the source. More gunmen appeared from behind parked cars, at least 5 of them, coordinated, professional. This wasn't random. This was planned. Get her in the vehicle, one of the security team shouted in Korean, dragging Maya forward while his partner provided covering fire. She stumbled, her legs not quite obeying commands, terror flooding every nerve. Another shot. Closer this time. The security guard pushing her toward the SUV grunted, stumbled but didn't stop. He shoved her into the back seat, slammed the door, and the driver took off before she could even register what was happening. Bullets pinged off the armored vehicle. The rear window spiderwebbed but didn't shatter. Maya pressed herself flat against the seat, hands over her head, while the driver maneuvered through the parking garage with terrifying speed. They burst out onto the street, tires screaming, and suddenly they were in daylight, in traffic, surrounded by normal people going about normal days, completely unaware that a woman in the back of an SUV had just survived an assassination attempt. The driver spoke rapidly into his radio, Korean too fast for Maya to follow. Then he glanced in the rearview mirror, his eyes meeting hers. "You're safe, Miss Chin. We're taking you to the secondary location. Just stay down." Maya stayed down, her entire body shaking, the taste of copper in her mouth from where she'd bitten her lip. She'd watched 2 men get shot protecting her. Watched them bleed and fall and maybe die, all because she'd written 7 words on a napkin. All because she couldn't walk away from someone in danger. The adrenaline crash hit hard. She pressed her face against the leather seat and tried very hard not to throw up. The drive took 30 minutes. When the SUV finally stopped, they were in front of a nondescript building in a neighborhood Maya didn't recognize. Industrial, quiet, the kind of place where you could scream and no one would hear. The driver helped her out, guided her inside, up 3 flights of stairs to a loft space that had been converted into a safe house. Sparse furniture, reinforced windows, security monitors showing multiple camera angles of the street below. Another man waited inside, older, maybe 50, with silver hair and the bearing of someone who'd seen everything twice. "Miss Chin, I'm Park Min-soo. We spoke on the phone." He gestured to a leather couch. "Please sit. You're safe here. This location is off the books. No one outside my immediate team knows about it. Your men," Maya managed, her voice shaking. "In the garage. Are they?" "1 wounded, 1 minor injuries. They'll survive." Min-soo's expression was carefully neutral. "They knew the risks. This is what they're trained for. I didn't ask for this. I know. But you're in it now. And until Mr. Kang resolves the situation with his brother, you remain a target." His eyes were kind despite the harsh truth in his words. "I'm sorry this happened to you. But I promise we will keep you safe." Maya wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that these strangers with guns would protect her, that Jae-won would fix everything, that she'd wake up tomorrow and this would all be a bad dream. But she'd just watched men shoot at her in broad daylight. Had felt bullets strike the vehicle she was in. Had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. "Where's Jae?" she asked. "Is he safe?" "He's securing the compound." The council meeting went as expected. His father believed the evidence, voted to exile Taemin. But Taemin refused to accept the ruling. He's declared himself the rightful heir, taken half the organization with him. We're in the middle of a civil war now. Min-soo pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. Jae-won stood in what looked like a war room, surrounded by maps and monitors, his expression carved from stone. He was alive at least. Unhurt as far as Maya could tell. But the exhaustion in his face, the weight on his shoulders, was visible even through the photograph. "When can I talk to him?" "He's coordinating our response, securing loyalists, preparing for Taemin's next move. But he asked me to tell you something." Min-soo's expression softened slightly. "He said to tell you that he's sorry. That this isn't what he wanted for you. And that he'll fix it. No matter what it cost." Maya stared at the photograph, at this man she barely knew who'd upended her entire world. He should hate him. Should blame him for dragging her into this nightmare. Should demand he let her go, release her from whatever debt he thought existed between them. But all she felt was worry. Bone-deep, irrational worry for a dangerous man who cooked breakfast and hid photographs of his mother and promised to pay debts with blood. "What do I do now?" she whispered. "Well." Min-soo pocketed his phone. "Now you wait. And you trust that Mr. Kang knows what he's doing. He's been preparing for this war his entire life. He won't lose. And he won't let anything happen to you. I promise you that." Maya wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust in Jae-won's preparation, his power, his absolute certainty. But she'd learned something in the past 24 hours. In Jae-won's world, promises were written in blood. And blood had a way of staining everything it touched. The safe house had no clocks. Maya tracked time by the changing light through the reinforced windows, by the shift rotations of Min-soo's security team, by the growing knot of anxiety in her chest that tightened with every hour that passed without word from Jae-won. She'd been here for 6 hours. 6 hours of pacing the small loft space, of watching security monitors show empty streets, of jumping at every sound that might be gunfire or might just be the building settling. Min-soo had left after the first hour, citing urgent business that required his attention. He'd assigned 2 guards to watch her. Young men, professional, who stood by the door like statues and pretended not to notice when she started talking to herself out of sheer boredom and terror. By the time the sun began setting, painting the industrial neighborhood in shades of orange and shadow, Maya had worn a path in the hardwood floor. Her phone had died an hour ago, the charger left behind in Jae-won's penthouse in the chaos of the extraction. She felt cut off, isolated, trapped in this space with no connection to the outside world. No way to check on her father, no way to know if Jae-won was alive or dead, no way to... The door opened. Maya spun, heart leaping into her throat. But it wasn't attackers. It was Jae-won. He looked like he'd been through a war. His white shirt was no longer white, stained with what might have been blood or dirt or both. His suit jacket was gone. His hair, usually perfectly styled, fell across his forehead in disarray. A cut above his eyebrow leaked blood down the side of his face, and his knuckles were split and bruised. But he was alive. He was here. And the relief that flooded through Maya was so intense it made her knees weak. "You're hurt," she said, already moving toward him. "I'm fine." But he swayed slightly, catching himself against the door frame. The guards moved to support him, but he waved them off with a sharp gesture. "Give us the room. Sir, you need medical attention." "No." His voice carried absolute authority despite his obvious exhaustion. The guards exchanged glances, then left, closing the door behind them. Suddenly it was just Maya and Jae-won in the dim loft, the city lights beginning to glow through the windows, and the weight of everything that had happened pressing down like a physical force. "You're not fine," Maya said, closing the distance between them. "Sit down before you fall down. I've had worse. Go on, please." Something in her tone made him comply. He moved to the couch, sank into it with a barely suppressed groan. Up close, Maya could see the full extent of the damage. The cut above his eyebrow was deep, would probably need stitches. His shirt was torn at the shoulder, revealing what looked like a graze from a bullet. Bruises were already forming along his jaw, his neck, the visible parts of his collarbone. "What happened?" Maya asked, fighting the urge to touch him to check the wounds herself. The meeting turned into a bloodbath. Taemin brought 20 armed men into the compound. My father's guards engaged them. It became a firefight in the middle of the council chamber. Jae-won's voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands trembled slightly where they rested on his knees. "My father was hit. Not fatally, but serious enough that he's in surgery now." The elders scattered. Half sided with me, half with Taemin. The organization is split down the middle. "And your brother? Still alive. Still claiming he's the rightful heir. He's fortified himself in the East compound with his loyalists." Jae-won finally looked at her, and the exhaustion in his eyes was devastating. "We're at war, Maya. Full civil war. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I'm sorry." "For what?" "For dragging you into this. For making you a target. For she killed his mother." The words came out before Maya could stop them. "Taemin, I mean. Or had her killed. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Not just succession. Revenge." Jae-won went very still. "How did you know that?" "I found a photograph. In your apartment. You and a woman in a hanbok. Your mother. She looked kind." He was silent for a long moment, staring at his hands. "She was the only kind person in a family built on cruelty. He died when I was 9. Car accident, they said. Brake failure on a mountain road. My father accepted it. I was too young to question it. But years later I found evidence. Maintenance records showing the brakes had been serviced the day before. Phone records between Taemin and a mechanic who died 3 months after my mother." He looked up and his eyes were hollow. "My brother killed her because she was pushing my father to legitimize the business, to move away from the violence. She was an obstacle to his vision of what the family should be. So he removed her." Maya's breath caught. "You've known all this time?" "For 15 years. Waiting for the right moment to make him pay." His voice was soft, deadly. "My father's illness gave me that moment. The succession fight was always going to come down to me and Taemin. I just needed him to make the first move to show everyone what he really is. Someone who'd kill family for power. And I've been very patient. Very careful. Building alliances, gathering evidence, waiting. Except you didn't account for me. For someone warning you about the breaks." Maya understood now. The weight of it settling over her. "I disrupted your plan. You were supposed to know about the assassination attempt but let it play out some other way. Use it as leverage in the council meeting. I was supposed to catch Sang-ho in the act. Have witnesses. Make it public and undeniable. Jae-won ran a hand through his hair, wincing as the movement pulled his injured shoulder. Instead, you gave me advance warning. I had to move faster than planned, call the emergency meeting before I'd secured all the votes I needed. That's why Taemin was able to bring armed men. Why the situation got out of control. This is my fault. Oh. He reached out, his hand closing around her wrist. Not painful but firm. Anchoring. You saved my life, Maya. Everything that came after, that's on Taemin. On me. On 15 years of poison finally coming to the surface. You're the only innocent person in this entire mess. I don't feel innocent. I feel responsible. You're not. But you are in danger because of me. Which is why you can't stay in Chicago. Maya's stomach dropped. What? Taemin knows about you. Knows you warned me. He's put out word to his people that you're a priority target. As long as you're here, you're leverage against me. A way to hurt me. I need you somewhere he can't reach you. You're sending me away. Temporarily. Just until I can end this. Neutralize Taemin and secure my position. Then you can come back, go back to your life, your jobs, your father. Everything goes back to normal. Normal. Maya laughed and it came out slightly hysterical. You think anything about my life is ever going to be normal again after this? You think I can just go back to serving tables and filing legal briefs and pretending I didn't watch men shoot at each other over family politics? You think? She stopped, her throat closing around words she didn't know how to say. She was angry. Terrified. And underneath it all, underneath the fear and the fury, was something else entirely. Something that had been building since she'd first looked into Jae-won's eyes in that alley behind Saryan. Something dangerous that felt almost like caring. Maya. His voice was gentle now, his hand still wrapped around her wrist, thumb pressing against her pulse point. I know this has been hell for you. I know you didn't ask for any of it. But I need you safe. And safe means far from me right now. Where would I go? I have contacts in Vancouver. Good people who owe me favors. They'll set you up with an apartment, a job if you want one, protection until this is over. Your father can come too if he's stable enough to travel. I'll arrange everything. The care, the travel, the security. You'll both be protected. And what about you? What happens when you're facing your brother without anyone watching your back? I have Minsu. I have my security team. I have half the organization's loyalists. I'll be fine. You don't know that. Oh. His eyes met hers and the intensity in them made her breath catch. But I know that I can't focus on ending this if I'm constantly worried about you. If I'm terrified that every move I make puts you in more danger. I need you safe, Maya. Not because you're a liability. Because you matter. The confession hung in the air between them, raw and unexpected. Maya stared at him, this dangerous man with blood on his shirt and violence in his past and something almost vulnerable in his eyes. He should agree. Should let him send her to Vancouver, let him fight his war without the complication of protecting her. It was the smart choice. The safe choice. But Maya had stopped making safe choices the moment she'd written that note. I'm not going, she said quietly. As you are. Oh. I'm not running away while you fight a war that started because I disrupted your careful plans. I'm not hiding in Vancouver wondering if you're alive or dead. And I'm not leaving my father when he finally has good care and stability for the first time in years. Maya, I'm staying. She pulled her wrist free from his grip, stepped back. Not to escape but to meet him as an equal. He said I matter. That means my choice matters too. And I choose to stay. Even if it means being in danger. Even then. You're insane. Probably. But I'm also the woman who saved your life. So maybe trust that I know what I'm doing. Jae-won stared at her, emotions warring across his face. Frustration, respect, something that might have been fear. Then slowly he stood. The movement was careful, controlled despite his injuries. He crossed the space between them in 2 steps, close enough that Maya had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. If you stay, he said, his voice low and intense, you follow my rules. You don't leave the safe house without my permission. You don't contact anyone without clearing it through Minsu. You do exactly what I tell you when I tell you, no questions, no arguments. Because the moment you become a target, Taemin will use you against me. And I can't. His hand came up, fingers brushing her cheek with unexpected gentleness. I can't lose you. Not because of this. Not because of me. The touch sent electricity racing down her spine. They were standing too close, the air between them charged with something Maya didn't want to name. She could smell him, expensive cologne mixed with sweat and copper and something darker. Could see the flecks of gold hidden in his dark eyes, the way his pupils dilated as he looked at her. "Hey," she whispered. "I'll follow your rules. Promise me." "I promise." His thumb traced her jawline, tilted her face up toward his. In the fading light, with blood on his face and exhaustion etched into every line of his body, he'd never looked more dangerous. Or more human. "I need to clean you up," Maya said, forcing herself to step back, to break the moment before it became something neither of them could take back. "Those cuts need attention." "The bathroom's through there," Jae-won gestured vaguely. "There should be a first aid kit in the cabinet." Maya found the kit, brought it back to the couch and made Jae-won sit while she assessed the damage. The cut above his eyebrow was still bleeding sluggishly. She cleaned it with antiseptic, her hands surprisingly steady despite the intimacy of the task. He watched her the entire time, his gaze intense and unreadable. "This is going to hurt," she warned, preparing butterfly bandages to close the wound. "I've had worse. I'm sure you have. But that doesn't mean this won't hurt." She pressed the edges together, applied the bandages with care. Jae-won didn't flinch, didn't make a sound, just kept watching her face like he was memorizing every detail. "Where did you learn to do this?" Maya asked, moving on to clean the graze on his shoulder. "It was superficial, painful but not serious. My father's a veteran. Came back from Desert Storm with PTSD and a medicine cabinet full of first aid supplies. Taught me how to treat wounds when I was 10. Said it was a life skill everyone should have. Smart man." "He is." Was. Maya's hands faltered. "He passed 2 years ago. Heart attack." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. He lived a full life, served his country, raised me right. That's more than a lot of people get." She finished cleaning the shoulder wound, applied antibiotic ointment and a bandage. "Your knuckles." Jae-won held out his hands. The knuckles were split, bruised, swollen. Evidence of violence delivered personally, not just ordered from a distance. Maya cleaned them carefully, her fingers gentle against his. "What happened?" "A disagreement with one of Taemin's lieutenants. He thought he could intimidate me. He was wrong." "You fought him yourself? Instead of letting your security handle it?" "Sometimes messages need to be delivered personally. To show you're not afraid. That you're willing to get your hands dirty." Jae-won's voice was matter-of-fact. "It's a leadership thing. You wouldn't understand. Try me. I grew up in the system. Foster care, group homes, the whole mess. You think I don't understand power dynamics and showing strength to survive?" Maya met his eyes, saw the surprise there. "I know exactly what it means to fight your own battles. To prove you're not someone who can be pushed around. So don't assume I wouldn't understand just because I serve tables for a living." "I'm sorry. I didn't know. There's a lot you don't know about me. Apparently." His hands turned in hers, fingers intertwining with hers. "We should fix that. When this is over, when Taemin is dealt with and you're safe, I want to know everything. Where you grew up, how you ended up in Chicago, why you chose to save a stranger instead of protecting yourself. I want to understand what makes Maya Chin brave enough to walk into a war zone." The intensity in his voice made her heart race. This was dangerous territory. Getting close to him, letting him get close to her, building something real in the middle of chaos and violence. It was stupid, reckless, destined to end badly. But Maya had spent her whole life playing it safe, being invisible, surviving but never truly living. And something about Jae-won, about his brutal honesty and unexpected gentleness and the way he looked at her like she mattered, made her want to take the risk. "Okay," she said softly. "When this is over, I'll tell you everything." "Good." He stood, tested his weight, seemed satisfied that everything still worked. "I need to get back to the command center. Coordinate with Minsu, plan our next moves. But you'll be safe here. I'm leaving 4 guards outside. No one gets in or out without my authorization." "When will I see you again?" "Tomorrow. Maybe the day after, depending on how things develop." His expression softened slightly. "I know this is hard. Being stuck here waiting, not knowing what's happening. But it's the safest option until I can neutralize the threat. I trust you." The words came out before Maya could second-guess them. "I don't know why, but I do. So do what you need to do. Just come back in one piece." Jae-won moved closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. "I will. I promise." Then he did something that stole the breath from her lungs. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, the gesture tender and possessive all at once. His lips lingered against her skin for a heartbeat too, then he stepped back. Stay safe, Maya-chan. You too, Kang Jae-won. She watched him leave, watched the door close behind him, and felt the absence like a physical ache. The loft suddenly seemed too empty, too quiet, the city lights beyond the windows cold and distant. Maya touched her forehead where his lips had been and tried to ignore the way her heart was racing, tried to pretend that kiss had been just a gesture of gratitude and not something infinitely more complicated. The next 2 days were the longest of Maya's life. She existed in a strange limbo, trapped in the safe house with nothing to do but wait and worry. The guards rotated shifts every 8 hours. Professional, polite but distant. They brought her food, magazines, anything she requested within reason. But they couldn't give her what she really wanted. News about Jae-won. Information about the war he was fighting. Reassurance that he was still alive. Min-soo called once a day with updates. Brief, clinical reports that told her almost nothing. Mr. Kang is well. The situation is developing. We expect resolution soon. Please remain patient. Patient. Maya paced the loft, watched the security monitors and tried to be patient. She called her father twice, spoke to him through the care facility's phone system, careful not to mention where she was or what was happening. He sounded good. Better than he had in months. The private suite, the enhanced care, the hope that maybe things were finally improving. It made the waiting slightly more bearable, knowing that at least one good thing had come from this nightmare. On the 3rd day the door opened and Jae-won walked in. He looked better than he had last time. The cuts were healing, the bruises fading to yellow-green. He wore a fresh suit, his hair styled, his expression composed. But there was something in his eyes. Something dark and satisfied and dangerous. It's done, he said without preamble. Daimi. Dead. Killed in a raid on the East Compound last night. My father's recovering well enough to resume limited duties. The elders have voted unanimously to confirm me as successor. The war is over. Maya should have felt relief. Should have felt joy that the threat was eliminated, that she could go home, that her life could return to some semblance of normal. Instead she felt something cold settle in her chest. You killed him yourself? I did. Jae-won's voice was flat, emotionless. Put a bullet in his head while he tried to run. 15 years of waiting and it was over in 3 seconds. How do you feel? He moved to the window, stared out at the city. I thought I'd feel vindicated. Satisfied. Something. But all I feel is tired. And aware that I'm exactly what he accused me of being. A killer. Just like him. You're not like him. You're exactly like me, Maya. We both do what we have to do to survive. The difference is I've been doing it longer. There was something hollow in his voice, something that made Maya's chest ache. She crossed to him, stood beside him at the window, and did something she'd been wanting to do for days. She took his hand. Their fingers intertwined, and for a moment they just stood there, watching the city lights, 2 people who'd survived a war neither of them had wanted. What happens now? Maya asked quietly. Now you go home. Back to your apartment, your jobs, your life. I'll make sure you're protected. Security detail monitoring anything you need. But you're free, Maya. The threat is gone. You can leave. And you? I rebuild. Take over the organization, legitimize what I can, manage what I can't. Become the leader my father wanted me to be. His hand tightened on hers. And I pay my debts. Your father's transplant. It's arranged. We found a donor, compatible, surgery scheduled for next month. The hospital bills, the recovery, everything. It's handled. Maya's vision blurred with tears. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. You saved my life. I'm saving your father's. The debt is paid. Is it? She turned to face him, forced him to meet her eyes. Because it doesn't feel paid. Feels like it's just beginning. Jae-won stared at her and something shifted in his expression. What are you saying? I'm saying that I don't want to go back to my old life and pretend this never happened. I don't want to serve tables and file briefs and forget about the man who cooked me breakfast and kissed my forehead and promised to keep me safe. I'm saying that maybe this debt isn't about money or medicine or protection. Maybe it's about something else entirely. His free hand came up, cupped her face. You should run from me, Maya-chan. I'm dangerous. I'm broken. I live in a world that destroys everything good it touches. You should go back to your normal life and forget I exist. But I'm not going to, am I? No. His thumb traced her lower lip, the touch sending heat racing through her body. You're going to stay. You're going to let me take you to dinner at restaurants nicer than Saryan. You're going to let me show you parts of my world that aren't violence and war. And you're going to drive me absolutely insane because you're brave and stubborn and you see me as something other than a monster. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. What I need is you safe and happy. But what I'm going to do is be selfish. Keep you close. Build something with you that isn't built on blood and debts. Try to be someone worthy of the mercy you showed me. The confession was raw, vulnerable. Everything Maya had suspected lay beneath his controlled exterior. She rose on her toes, closing the distance between them, and kissed him. Not gentle, not tentative, but claiming. Decisive. A choice made with full knowledge of the consequences. Jae-won responded instantly, his hands sliding into her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. He tasted like coffee and promises kept, and Maya surrendered to it completely. This was dangerous. Reckless. Destined to be complicated in ways she couldn't begin to predict. But it was real. And after 3 days of waiting in limbo, of not knowing if he was alive or dead, real was all that mattered. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jae-won rested his forehead against hers. This is insane. Probably. You barely know me. I know enough. We're from completely different worlds. Then we'll build a bridge. Maya pulled back slightly, met his eyes. I'm not afraid of your world, Jing. I'm not afraid of you. And I'm done letting fear make my decisions. His smile was slow, genuine, transforming his face. Then let's go home. Together. Together, Maya agreed. And it felt like a beginning. 6 months later, Maya stood in front of the bathroom mirror in Jae-won's penthouse. Now their penthouse, applying mascara with hands that trembled slightly. Tonight was important. Tonight, her father was being released from the hospital after his successful kidney transplant, healthy and whole for the first time in years. Tonight, Jae-won was officially introducing her to the remaining family elders at a formal dinner. Tonight, 2 worlds that had collided in violence were trying to become one. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Designer dress in deep emerald silk that Jae-won had insisted on buying, understated jewelry that probably cost more than her old apartment, hair professionally styled in soft curls that fell past her shoulders. She looked like she belonged in his world now. Like the transformation was complete. But underneath the expensive clothes and careful makeup, she was still Maya Chen. Still the girl who'd grown up in foster care, who'd worked 3 jobs to support her father, who'd written a warning on a napkin because letting someone die felt worse than the risk of trying to save them. You're thinking too hard. Jae-won's voice came from the doorway. He leaned against the frame, watching her with those dark eyes that still made her pulse quicken. I can see the wheels turning from here. I'm just nervous. About tonight. Meeting everyone officially. Having them judge whether I'm good enough for their world. His expression softened. You saved my life. You survived an assassination attempt. You stayed when any sane person would have run. You're more than good enough. Besides, he moved behind her, hands settling on her waist, chin resting on her shoulder so they were both reflected in the mirror. They don't get a vote. You're mine. I'm keeping you. Very romantic. Making me sound like a possession you're hoarding. Would you prefer I compose poetry about your courage and beauty? Maya laughed despite her nerves. God, no. Your poetry would probably involve metaphors about warfare and strategic advantages. Exactly. Which is why I stick to showing you how I feel instead of telling you. His lips brushed her neck, the touch sending familiar heat racing through her. We could skip dinner. Stay here. I could demonstrate my feelings very thoroughly. Tempting. But my father is expecting us. And your elders would take it as an insult if we didn't show. Rain check. Boys. But Jae-won didn't move, just held her there, both of them reflected in the mirror. A study in contrasts. His dark suit against her emerald dress, his controlled stillness against her nervous energy, his dangerous world against her determined normalcy. How did we get here? Maya asked quietly. 6 months ago I was serving tables. Now I'm living in a penthouse with a man who runs half of Chicago's Korean underground. It seems impossible. You wrote a note. I believed you. Everything else was inevitable. Was it? Because it feels like we chose this. Every day we keep choosing it. You're right. Jae-won's arms tightened around her waist. Every morning I wake up next to you, I choose this. Choose you. Choose to try being someone better than what I was raised to be. Does it work? Am I better? Maya turned in his arms, placed her hands on his chest, felt his heartbeat steady beneath her palms. You're trying. That's more than most people do. You're building legitimate businesses, shutting down the worst of the illegal operations, creating something your mother would be proud of. That counts for something. She'd hate that it took her death to motivate me. Maybe. Or maybe she'd just be glad you finally found a reason. His hand came up, cupped her face with a gentleness that still surprised her. You're my reason, Maya. Everything I'm building, everything I'm trying to become, it's because you looked at me and saw something worth saving. Don't put that much weight on me. I'm just a woman who couldn't walk away. You're everything. And tonight I'm showing the elders exactly how much you mean to me. No more hiding you, no more keeping you separate from the family business. You're part of my world now. Officially. Permanently. The weight of that settled over Maya like a cloak. Heavy, significant, irrevocable. Are you sure? About introducing me to everyone? Making this public? I've never been more sure of anything. His eyes held hers, intense and uncompromising. I love you, Maya-chan. I should have said it weeks ago, but I'm saying it now. I love you. And I want everyone in my world to know it. Her breath caught. The words shouldn't have been a surprise. They'd been living together for 4 months, had fallen into a rhythm of domesticity that felt inevitable. But hearing him say it with that absolute certainty in his voice, made it real in a way nothing else had. I love you too, she whispered. Even though you're complicated and dangerous and you reorganize my bookshelves when you think I'm not looking. I don't reorganize. I optimize. Same thing. It's really not. Maya kissed him, soft and lingering, tasting coffee and mint and the promise of forever. When they broke apart, his eyes were dark with want, but he stepped back with visible effort. We need to go. Your father is waiting. And if we start this, we won't stop. Later then. Definitely later. The drive to the restaurant took 20 minutes. Jae-won had chosen a private room at Hanok, the finest Korean establishment in Chicago, reserved exclusively for tonight's dinner. No other guests, no witnesses beyond the family and Maya's father. Intimate, controlled, exactly how Jae-won managed everything in his life. Min-soo met them at the entrance, his expression as professionally neutral as ever, but Maya caught the slight nod of approval when he saw her. You look lovely. Thank you, Min-soo. How's my father? Doing well. Already inside, charming the elders with stories about your childhood. He seems very pleased to be here. Of course he is, Maya muttered. He's been waiting 6 months to meet the man who saved his life. No pressure or anything. You'll be fine. Jae-won's hand found hers, squeezed gently. Just be yourself. That's all I need. They entered the private room together and conversation stopped. 8 elders sat around a long table, traditional Korean setup with cushions and low seating. All men, all over 60, all watching Maya with expressions that ranged from curiosity to thinly veiled disapproval. And at the head of the table, looking healthier than he had in years, sat James Chin. Maya's father stood when he saw her, his smile wide and genuine. Baby girl. Look at you. He pulled her into a hug and Maya let herself sink into it for just a moment. The familiar scent of his aftershave, the strength in his arms that had been absent for so long, the simple fact of him being alive and well. This was what it had all been for. You look good, Dad. Really good. I feel good. Best I've felt in years. He released her, turned to Jae-won. And this must be the man I've been hearing so much about. Mr. Kang, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. My daughter, the surgery, all of it. I'm in your debt. No debt, sir. Jae-won bowed, a gesture of respect that surprised Maya with its formality. Your daughter saved my life. Ensuring her happiness and your health is the least I can do. James studied him for a long moment, the way fathers do when assessing the men who love their daughters. I've heard stories about you. About your family, your business, the kind of world my daughter has entered. Should I be worried? Yes. Jae-won's honesty was characteristically blunt. My world is dangerous. There are people who would hurt Maya to get to me. There are aspects of my business that exist in gray areas of the law. There are risks I can't entirely eliminate. But I can promise you that I will protect her with everything I have. That I love her. And that I'm trying every day to be worthy of her. The elders murmured among themselves, some approving, others skeptical. The oldest, a man named Park Chul-soo who'd known Jae-won's father for 40 years, cleared his throat. You bring an outsider to a family dinner. A woman not of our world, not of our culture. This is unprecedented. She's the woman I intend to marry. Jae-won's declaration dropped into the room like a grenade. Maya's heart stopped. They hadn't discussed marriage. Hadn't talked about futures beyond the immediate present. But he said it with such absolute certainty, like it was a fact already decided. If that makes her an outsider, then our traditions need to evolve. Elder Park's eyes narrowed. You would abandon tradition for a woman you've known 6 months? I would honor the woman who saved my life, who stayed when she could have run, who loves me despite knowing exactly what I am. Jae-won's voice was steel wrapped in silk. My mother taught me that family is defined by loyalty and love, not just blood. Maya-chin has shown me more loyalty than my own brother did. She's earned her place here. The room fell silent. Maya could feel every eye on her, judging, assessing, trying to determine if she was worthy of the man who'd just claimed her so publicly. Finally, Elder Park spoke. Then let her prove herself. Let her demonstrate she understands our ways, our values, our traditions. Let her show us she's more than just a pretty face who caught your eye. What did you have in mind? Maya asked, finding her voice. The elders had been speaking in Korean, probably assuming she wouldn't understand, but she'd caught enough to know they were testing her. You understand our language? Elder Park's surprise was evident. Enough to know you've been discussing whether I'm a gold digger or an opportunist. She met his gaze steadily. I'm neither. I'm a paralegal who works 60-hour weeks, who grew up in foster care, who put herself through community college while caring for a sick father. I don't need Jae-won's money. I fell in love with him despite his money, despite his world, despite every logical reason to run the other way. What do you see in him that made you stay? I see someone who's trying to be better than his circumstances. Someone who cooks breakfast and hides photographs of his mother and keeps his promises even when they're difficult. Maya's voice softened. I see someone who's been alone for most of his life and is finally letting someone in. And I see someone who, when given the choice between revenge and mercy, is choosing to build something good. That's rare. That's worth fighting for. The elders exchanged glances. Then Elder Park did something unexpected. He smiled. Yes, spirit. I'll give you that, Jae-won. Your mother would have liked her. The highest compliment Park Chul-soo had ever given anyone. The tension in the room eased fractionally. Conversation resumed, this time including Maya and her father. Questions about her work, her background, her understanding of the responsibilities that came with being connected to the Kang family. Maya answered honestly, holding nothing back. Yes, she knew Jae-won's business had illegal elements. Yes, she understood the dangers. Yes, she'd thought about walking away 1,000 times. But she'd stayed because love wasn't about logic. It was about choosing someone despite the complications, not because everything was easy. Dinner was served. Traditional Korean dishes that reminded Maya of her childhood in Koreatown, when her best friend's mother would cook elaborate meals and insist Maya stay for dinner. Galbi, japchae, kimchi jjigae, banchan covering every available surface. The food was incredible, but Maya barely tasted it. She was too focused on navigating the conversation, on proving to these men that she belonged here, that she wasn't going to break or run or fail Jae-won when things got difficult. Midway through the meal, Elder Park raised his glass. A toast. To Kang Jae-won, who has proven himself a worthy successor. Who has brought honor back to the family name through strength and strategic brilliance. And to Maya-chin, who has shown courage in the face of danger and loyalty in the face of fear. May your union bring prosperity to both your families. Everyone drank. Even the skeptical elders, even her father, who still looked slightly overwhelmed by the formality of it all. Maya caught Jae-won's eye across the table and saw something there that made her heart swell. Prida. Love. Gratitude. When dinner finally ended, the elders departed one by one, each stopping to speak briefly with Jae-won, to nod respectfully at Maya. Elder Park lingered longest. Your mother would be proud, he said quietly to Jae-won. Not just of what you've built, but of who you've become. She always said you had a good heart beneath all that armor. I'm glad she was right. Thank you, Elder Park. That means more than you know. The old man turned to Maya. Take care of him. He won't admit it, but he needs someone to remind him he's human. That he's allowed to be happy. I will, Maya promised. The room emptied until it was just Maya, Jae-won, her father, and Min-soo waiting discreetly by the door. James Chin stood, moved to where Jae-won sat, and extended his hand. I'm trusting you with my daughter's life. With her happiness. Don't make me regret it. I won't, sir. Jae-won shook his hand firmly. You have my word. Good. Because if you hurt her, transplant or not, I'll find a way to make you pay. James smiled, but there was steel beneath it. Understood? Understood. Her father kissed Maya's forehead, whispered that he loved her, and left with Min-soo to be driven back to his new apartment. An apartment Jae-won had secured for him, furnished, paid for a year in advance. Just another debt Maya owed this man. Except it wasn't a debt anymore. It was love. Then they were alone in the private room, surrounded by the remnants of dinner, the weight of the evening settling over them like snow. You said you intend to marry me, Maya said quietly. In front of everyone. Was that strategic? A way to cement my place in your world? Or did you mean it? Jae-won stood, crossed to where she sat, and lowered himself to one knee. From his jacket pocket he produced a small velvet box. I meant it. I've meant it since the moment you kissed me in that safe house and told me you weren't afraid. I just needed the right moment to make it official. Maya's hands flew to her mouth. This is insane. We've only known each other 6 months. I know. It's too fast, too dramatic, too much like something from a movie. I know. But I also know that I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life. I want to build something real with you, something that isn't about violence or revenge or family politics. I want to be the man you see when you look at me. The one who's trying to be better. And I want to do all of that as your husband. He opened the box. The ring inside was stunning. A single diamond set in platinum, elegant and understated and absolutely perfect. Maya-chan, will you marry me? She should have hesitated. Should have asked for time to think, to process, to make sure this wasn't just adrenaline and proximity and the intensity of everything they'd survived together. But Maya had learned something over the past 6 months. Sometimes the heart knew things the mind needed time to accept. And her heart had known Kang Jae-won was hers from the moment he'd kissed her forehead and promised to keep her safe. She whispered, "Yes, I'll marry you." Jae-won's smile was blinding. He slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. He planned everything with meticulous precision. Then he was standing, pulling her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that made her forget they were in a restaurant, forget everything except the taste of him and the feeling of his hands in her hair and the absolute certainty that this was right. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Maya laughed. My father is going to kill you for proposing without asking his permission first. I asked him 3 weeks ago, when I visited him at the hospital. He said yes on the condition that I never make you cry and that I always make sure you eat breakfast. I can handle those requirements. Of course you asked him. Of course you plan this. You plan everything. Not everything. I didn't plan on falling in love with you. That part was entirely unintentional. But I'm not complaining. Neither am I. Maya looked down at the ring on her finger, at the physical symbol of a future she'd never imagined wanting. When what? When do you want to get married? Tomorrow. Next month. Whenever you want. I'm not in a rush. We've already waited long enough. Then let's not wait. Let's do it soon. Small ceremony, just family, nothing elaborate. I don't need a big wedding. I just need you. Whatever you want. Jae-won's hand cupped her face. But fair warning, the elders will expect some traditional elements. Korean ceremony, hanbok, the whole thing. They'll be insufferable if we don't honor at least some of the customs. Can I wear emerald? Traditionalists will say it should be red or pink. But yes, you can wear whatever color you want. It's your wedding. Our wedding. Ours. He said it like a promise, like a vow already taken. Maybe it was. Maybe they'd been promising themselves to each other since that first moment in the alley, when she'd chosen to warn him and he'd chosen to believe her. The next 3 months passed in a blur of preparation and integration. Maya officially quit her jobs at Saryan and the law firm, though Jae-won had offered to let her keep working if she wanted. But the truth was she didn't want to serve tables anymore. Didn't want to file briefs for other people's cases. She wanted to build something of her own. So Jae-won helped her enroll in law school. Full-time, top-tier program with the understanding that she'd eventually work for the family's legal department. Helping legitimize the business, protecting the organization through proper channels rather than violence. Using her skills for something that mattered. Her father thrived in his new apartment, his health improving daily. The transplant had been a complete success. He'd started volunteering at a community center, teaching woodworking to at-risk youth, building furniture that they donated to families in need. He was happy. Actually, genuinely happy for the first time since her mother had died 10 years ago. Maya visited him twice a week, brought him dinner, listened to his stories about the kids he was mentoring. And every time she left, she thanked whatever cosmic force had put her in that wine cellar at exactly the right moment to overhear a murder plot. The wedding was planned for a Saturday in early spring. Small as promised. Just family and close friends. The ceremony would blend Korean and American traditions, officiated by a minister who'd known Jae-won's mother. They'd written their own vows. Maya had spent weeks crafting hers, trying to find words that captured what she felt for this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly tender man who'd upended her entire world. The night before the wedding, Jae-won stayed at the penthouse while Maya stayed at her father's apartment. Tradition, he'd said. Bad luck to see the bride before the ceremony. She'd rolled her eyes but complied, spending the evening with her father, letting him fuss over her the way fathers do before giving their daughters away. "You're sure about this?" James asked as they sat on his balcony watching the city lights. "Sure about marrying into a world you don't fully understand? Sure about tying yourself to a man whose enemies could become your enemies? I'm sure about loving him. The rest we'll figure out as we go. That's all anyone can do, I suppose." Her father was quiet for a moment. "Your mother would have liked him. Would she? A man who runs a criminal organization?" She fell in love with a soldier who'd seen too much war and come home broken. She understood complicated men. And she always said the measure of a person wasn't where they came from, but where they were trying to go. Jae-won is trying to go somewhere better. That's what matters. I miss here. Every day. But especially tomorrow. He should be here for this. I know, baby girl. I know. But she's watching. And she's proud of you. Proud of the woman you've become, the strength you've shown, the love you've found. He squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you too. Don't cry. You'll ruin your makeup for tomorrow." "I'm not wearing makeup yet, Dad." "Practice for tomorrow then." Maya laughed through her tears. Let her father hold her the way he had when she was small and the world felt too big and scary. Some things never changed. Some comforts were eternal. The wedding day dawned clear and bright. Maya woke in her father's guest room, sunlight streaming through the windows, and felt an unusual sense of calm. Today she was marrying Kang Jae-won. Today she was stepping fully into a life she'd never planned but couldn't imagine living without. The hanbok Jae-won had commissioned for her was a work of art. Emerald silk embroidered with delicate gold thread, traditional in cut but modern in color. Her hair was styled simply, pulled back to showcase the jade earrings that had belonged to Jae-won's mother. Elder Park had presented them to her 2 weeks ago, a symbol of acceptance from the family. A recognition that she wasn't just Jae-won's choice but theirs. Her father walked her down the aisle at Hanek's garden pavilion, his arms steady, his eyes bright with tears he refused to let fall. The space was decorated simply. White flowers, silk ribbons, paper lanterns swaying gently in the spring breeze. 50 guests maybe. The elders, Jae-won's key people, Maya's handful of close friends who'd been shocked but supportive when she told them she was marrying a man they'd never met. And at the end of the aisle, waiting beneath an arch of cherry blossoms, stood Jae-won. He wore traditional hanbok in black and gold, and the sight of him stole her breath. Not because of the clothes, though he wore them well, but because of the expression on his face. Wonder. Love. Gratitude. Like he couldn't quite believe this was happening. Like she was something precious and unexpected and more than he'd ever hoped to deserve. Her father placed her hand in Jae-won's, whispered something in Korean that made Jae-won nod solemnly, then stepped back. The ceremony began. Traditional elements blended seamlessly with personal touches. The minister spoke about love that transforms, about two people choosing each other despite the obstacles, about building something beautiful from unexpected foundations. Then it was time for vows. Jae-won went first, his voice steady and clear. "Maya-chan, 6 months ago you saved my life with 7 words on a napkin. But you've been saving me every day since. Saving me from becoming the man I feared I'd become, from letting revenge consume everything good inside me, from believing I was beyond redemption. You looked at me and saw someone worth fighting for. Someone capable of love and gentleness and building instead of destroying. You stayed when any sane person would have run. You chose me. Every day you keep choosing me. And I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that choice. I promise to protect you, to honor you, to cook you breakfast and reorganize your bookshelves and love you with everything I am. You're my miracle, Maya. My second chance. My home." Maya's throat tightened with emotion. She'd prepared elaborate vows, Poetic words about love and courage and finding beauty in unexpected places. But standing here looking into Jae-won's eyes, all of that felt insufficient. So she spoke from the heart instead. Kang Jae-won, I wrote that note because I couldn't walk away from someone in danger. But I stayed because I couldn't walk away from you. From your unexpected kindness, your complicated honor, your determination to be better than your circumstances. You've given me so much. My father's health, financial security, a future I never imagined wanting. But the greatest gift you've given me is yourself. Your trust, your vulnerability, your love. You let me see past the armor to the man beneath. The one who hides photographs of his mother and makes kimchi fried rice and promises impossible things and actually keeps them. I promise to stand beside you as you build something better. To remind you you're human when the weight of your world tries to crush that humanity. To love you on the hard days and the easy ones. To choose you every single day for the rest of our lives. You're my home too. The minister smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Jae-won cupped her face with both hands, thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized she was crying. I love you, Maya Kang. I love you, Jae-won. The kiss was soft, tender, full of promise. The crowd erupted in applause, and for a moment it was just the two of them. Two people who'd found each other in the chaos and decided to build something beautiful from the wreckage. The reception was held in Hanok's main hall, transformed into something magical with flowers and lights and music that blended traditional Korean instruments with modern jazz. Maya danced with her father first, letting him whisper advice and love and barely veiled threats about what he'd do to Jae-won if he ever hurt her. Then she danced with Jae-won and the rest of the world fell away. You're stuck with me now, she said, her head on his shoulder. No returns, no exchanges. Stuck with you is exactly where I want to be. His arms tightened around her. Thank you for saying yes. For choosing this life. For choosing me. Thank you for asking. For seeing me as more than just the waitress who wrote a note. You were never just anything, Maya. From the first moment you were everything. They danced until the stars came out, until the guests began to leave, until it was just family remaining. Elder Park approached, bowed formally to both of them. You've done well, Jae-won. Your mother would be proud. And you, Maya, welcome to the family. Officially, permanently. We'll expect you at the next council meeting. Business meeting? Maya glanced at Jae-won. I thought I was just moral support. You're his wife now. That means you have a voice in family decisions. Elder Park's expression was serious. Your insights will be valuable, particularly as we continue legitimizing our operations. Don't underestimate your worth to this organization. After he left, Maya turned to Jae-won. Council meetings? I'm in law school. I barely understand your business. You understand right and wrong. You understand when something crosses the line from gray area into harmful. I need that perspective. The elders need it too, even if they don't realize it yet. You're changing things. Using me to change things. Using us. He corrected. We're changing things together. Building something your mother would be proud of. Something we can be proud of. Exactly. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. Ready to go home, Mrs. Kang? Home. The word settled over her like a blessing. Not her old apartment with its thin walls and temperamental heat. Not even the penthouse with its luxury and security. Home was wherever Jae-won was. Wherever they were building this impossible, beautiful life together. Ready. They left Hanok hand in hand, Min-soo waiting with the car. But instead of heading to the penthouse, Jae-won gave different directions. Where are we going? Maya asked. Somewhere I want to show you. A surprise. I'm not great with surprises. Trust me. She did. Completely. Irrationally. Despite every logical reason to maintain some distance, some self-preservation. She trusted this dangerous man with her whole heart. They drove for 20 minutes, leaving the city behind, heading toward the suburbs. Finally, they pulled up to a property Maya had never seen before. A house. Not a mansion, but substantial. Modern architecture, lots of glass and clean lines, set back from the road on several acres of land. What is this? Ours. Jae-won helped her out of the car. I bought it 3 months ago. Had it renovated while we were planning the wedding. The penthouse is perfect for work, for security, for showing strength. But this, he gestured to the house, this is for us. For building a life that's more than just survival. For raising a family if that's something you want someday. Maya's breath caught. A family. They'd never discussed children, futures that concrete. But standing here, looking at this house that Jae-won had bought and renovated without telling her, she could imagine it. Could see children playing in that yard, holiday dinners around a table too big for just two people, growing old together in a home filled with love instead of just luxury. You planned this. All of it. I plan everything. But I need to know if this is what you want. If you want to build this life with me. The real one, not just the public one. Because I can't do this halfway, Maya. I'm all in. Forever. Completely. I need to know you are too. She kissed him instead of answering with words. Poured every ounce of love and commitment and certainty into it. When they broke apart, she whispered, I'm all in. Show me our home. The house was perfect. Open floor plan that felt spacious without being cavernous. A kitchen that would make cooking together a joy. A library with built-in shelves already filled with books in both Korean and English. A master suite with windows overlooking a garden that someone had clearly spent months cultivating. It felt lived in despite being new. Felt like a home instead of just a house. You did all this while planning a wedding and running an organization and dealing with your father's recovery? Maya marveled. When did you even have time? I made time. Because this matters. You matter. His arms came around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. I want to wake up here with you. Want to cook breakfast in that kitchen and read in that library and build something real in every room. Want to make this house a home through years and decades and all the beautiful ordinary moments that make a life. We can start tonight. Tonight? Our wedding night? Jae-won turned her to face him and the heat in his eyes made her breath catch. I had Minsu bring our things. We're staying here. Starting our marriage in our home, not in the penthouse that represents my old life. Unless you'd rather go back? No. Maya's hands slid up his chest, fingers curling into his collar. Oh, I want to stay here. Want to start this life with you right now. Good. Because I have plans for you, Mrs. Kang. Very detailed, very thorough plans. That involve. He kissed her neck, her jaw, the sensitive spot behind her ear. Carrying you over the threshold. Removing this beautiful hanbok very slowly. Showing you exactly how much I love you in every room of this house. That's a lot of rooms. We have all night. He scooped her up, carried her toward the master suite. And the rest of our lives. The rest of our lives, Maya agreed. And it sounded like the most beautiful promise in the world. Later, much later, they lay tangled together in the massive bed, moonlight streaming through the windows, the house quiet around them. Maya traced idle patterns on Jae-won's chest, her wedding ring catching the light. Do you ever think about how differently things could have gone? She asked quietly. If I hadn't been in that wine cellar, if I hadn't understood Korean, if I'd just walked away? Every day. His arm tightened around her. I think about how close I came to dying without ever knowing you existed. How I almost missed this. Missed us. It terrifies me. We found each other. That's what matters. Against impossible odds, through violence and chaos, we found each other. And we chose each other. That's not luck, Maya. That's fate. You believe in fate? I believe in you. In us. In the fact that the universe conspired to put you in that wine cellar at exactly the right moment to save my life and change everything. Call it fate, call it chance, call it whatever you want. I'm just grateful for it. Me too. Maya kissed his shoulder, then settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Strong, steady, alive. So what now? What do you mean? I mean, what comes next? We're married, we have this beautiful house, my father is healthy, your organization is stabilizing. What's the next chapter? Now we live. Jae-won's voice was soft, content. We finish your law degree, we continue legitimizing the business, we build the life we want instead of the one we were given. We wake up together every morning and choose each other every day. We be happy, Maya. Simple as that. Simple as that, she echoed. But nothing about them had ever been simple, and she suspected nothing about their future would be either. There would be challenges, setbacks, moments when the weight of Jae-won's world threatened to crush them. But they'd face it together. And that made all the difference. She was drifting off to sleep when Jae-won spoke again. Maya. Thank you. For what? For writing that note. For staying. For loving me despite everything. For being brave enough to build this life with me. You're welcome. Jae-won. Yeah. Thank you for believing me. For keeping your promises. For being the man I saw beneath all that armor. For loving me back. Always. His lips brushed her forehead, the gesture achingly familiar. I'll always love you back. Maya Chin, who became Maya Kang. My miracle. My wife. My home. She fell asleep in his arms in their home, wrapped in the absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The waitress who'd written 7 words on a napkin and changed 2 lives forever. The woman who'd looked at a dangerous man and seen someone worth saving. The wife who'd chosen love over logic and built something beautiful from the chaos. In the morning they'd wake up and start building their future. Law school and business meetings and all the ordinary extraordinary moments that make a marriage. But for tonight they just held each other. 2 people who'd survived impossible odds to find this moment of perfect peace. And it was more than enough. It was everything. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.